goal of this project is to replace that big ugly turn signal switch with this smaller switch hidden behind the dash rail. If you want to drill a hole in your dash rail, you could mount it there, but I do not want to, so I need to make a bracket behind the dash rail. Since this switch is pretty hard to press, I can't just have one L bracket. That would swing the whole switch when I tried to press it. So instead I need to make a bracket with 2 attachment points that will not move. Luckily, I have another dash rail down in my workshop to use as I make my bracket. First step is to make a paper template of the bracket and how it will fit behind the dash rail. In the next step, we simply trace the paper template onto a piece of sheet metal. The 2 holes where the bracket is going to attach to the dash rail and where the screws will go through are important to locate properly, so a center punch is used to mark exactly where those holes will be. Now we make some sparks as we cut it out. Sorry about the bumps, but the camera is getting a little bit shaken up by the cutoff wheel. Now we go to the belt grinder where we straighten up the cuts, get rid of all the burrs, and refine the shape of the bracket. Rounding over the corners of the bracket is easier to do on the belt sander than it is to do with the cutoff wheel. Wearing safety gloves is important unless you don't care about your knuckles. The next step is to drill the holes while the piece is still flat. it is very important that the piece is securely clamped down so that it does not catch on the drill and swing around and you wind up with a lot of blood on your work. Now the tab is bent over in the vise. The next step is not really needed, but I decided to put some beads in the bracket to stiffen it up. It also gave me the excuse to buy a bead roller, which I'd always wanted. First, use a marker to mark exactly where you want the bead and make big indications where you want it to start and stop. The top die is raised and the piece is put in. Now the top die is cranked down to about half the depth of the bead. Yes, I already lost the handle that's supposed to do this, but a 3/8 inch bolt works just fine. Now the top die is locked into place. Roll forward once and then back. Now we unlock the top die and crank it down to the full depth of the bead. Once again, we lock in the top die. And again, we roll forward and back.
It's 1:45.
There you go, the beads are all done. Next comes paint. I wanted it to be flat black so it would basically disappear under the dash rail. So I decided to use the Eastwood zinc phosphate covering, since it looks a lot like the zinc phosphate Ford used on a lot of its hardware. And there you have it. The bracket is done, and it looks like it will work very well behind the dash rail. The next step is to actually install the turn signal system, but that's a subject for another video. Thanks for watching.